So I recently saw an article about who could be the next fighter to reach Floyd Mayweather's 50-0. Now, it's going to be hard, let's be honest. It's going to be hard because, of course, there are a ton of unbeaten boxers right now, unbeaten world champions, whether that be in, multi-weight division or unified. There's a lot of undefeated world champions in boxing right now, but 50-0 is a different level of, achievement. 50 wins is crazy. Like, the amount of longevity you have to be able to get 50 wins in a row is crazy. Right? So, the current names that are in that conversation is Terence Crawford at 42-0. Now, Terence Crawford probably, realistically, is the most likely to reach this, even though at his age, getting another 8 fights, I would really struggle to see. And in a lot of ways, I don't even really want to see, because after Crawford's probably, if he has 3 more fights, I think you're really going to start to see a visible decline. And I don't want that, because Crawford can only fight world level opponents. And at that point, he probably would be only fighting at 168. Like, I don't see him, the older he gets, going down again. Like, I think his days at 147 are completely done. His days at 154 probably done. Once he goes down to middleweight and unifies that division, and at that point will probably be undisputed. If he can come undisputed at middleweight, and he wants to carry on fighting, which is a big if, because I don't think he would. If he did want to carry on fighting exclusively, he'd only be at 160 or 168. By which time there will be a whole new generation of 160s and 168ers, big dudes that can seriously bang. That being said, the biggest mistake, every mistake I've made in boxing has been underestimating Terence Crawford. The biggest mistakes I've made in fight predictions have been underestimating Terence Crawford. Like when I underestimated him against Errol Spence, like when I underestimated him against Canelo. Alright? Straight up. That's the truth. So yeah, Terence Bud Crawford's 42-0. He's probably the closest one to it. Then you've got WBC World Light Heavyweight Champion and 2-weight World Champion David Benavidez at 30-0. Now, for David Benavidez to win his next 20 fights, not only would he probably have to become undisputed at light heavyweight, well, not probably, would definitely have to become undisputed at light heavyweight. He'd also have to go up to cruiserweight, go on to become undisputed, and then even go up to heavyweight. Because 20 fights from now, David Benavidez will not still be fighting at light heavyweight, that's for sure. That is for sure. Right, and the sort of activity level you need to see. And David Benavidez, he's not a super young dude at this point. I'm sure he's in his 30s. I want to say he's in his 30s. Low 30s. He's relatively young, but he's not young enough to, even now, to continue to make 175, as crazy as that sounds. As crazy as that sounds. But David Benavidez, I don't think it would happen for. Then you've got Jamal the Hitman Charlo, who's a former 2-weight world champion at 34-0. I don't think he's a good enough boxer to do it. I think he's a very good boxer. I think he's a big puncher, very good at jabbing. He's a high IQ boxer. But, like I said, to reach 50-0, you have to be so good for so long. You have to be a truly generational boxer to do that. And that's why I'm saying, like, as good as David Benavidez is, he's not generational. As good as Charlo is, he's not generational. That's what I'm saying. Crawford's the closest guy to it because of his record and because he's truly a generational talent. A truly generational talent. Again, 2-division world champion Devin Haney. Now, in my opinion, he's 32-0, but in my opinion, I think Devin Haney could potentially, I don't think he could, because 18 more fights. Like, Devin Haney's not big. He was big for 135, not even big for 140, but he's not a big for 147, right? I think his days at 135 are done for Devin Haney. Could Devin Haney go on to have another 18 fights at 140, 147, 154 and win all of them? I don't want to say he could, but he could. If I'm being honest, he could. And there's still tons of big fights for Devin Haney as well. And Devin Haney's a great boxer. Like, there are people that want to hate on him. There are some flaws in his game, particularly how he shoots that jab, and Ryan Garcia was able to counter with that left hook every time. There are some holes in his game, but he's a seriously high IQ boxer who mixes up to the body to the head, plays the game of chess, plays the boxing game of chess very well. That's what Devin Haney does. And you've got to respect that. If you're a boxing fan, even if you don't like Devin Haney, even if you don't like Bill Haney, even if you don't think Devin Haney's a big puncher, all of these things could be true. You've still got to respect his boxing ability. In that last fight at 140, he barely even got touched. To fight for 12 rounds. Now, again, people say, oh, it was a boring fight. He didn't come to fight. Again, to box for 12 rounds, win the fight and barely get touched, that's a good night. Let's be objective. That's a good night. So, for me, that's why Devin Haney, he could potentially do it. I don't think he will. I don't think he'll be boxing for that long. Because, again, like I said, like Floyd was boxing for world titles early on in his career. And he had such longevity as well. He was champion at, I believe, 130, 35, 40, 47, 54. A 5-weight world champion. A 5-weight world champion. Now, do I think Devin Haney could become a 5-weight world champion? He was champion at 135. He could become champion at 140. Could become champion at 147 in this next fight. No, he was champion at 140, sorry. Could become champion at 147 in this next fight. Then do I think Devin Haney could fight at middleweight? No. He's too small for that. He's too small for middleweight. He's not even big for 154. He's not big for 147, let's have it right. He may come unstuck against Brian Norman Jr. I don't think he will, but he could. Right? And then 154. Who's he got at 154? I mean, there's some big dudes. I mean, you got Fundora. Fundora would be like, what, a foot taller than him? It would be a bit crazy against Fundora. A Boots. That's a huge fight. And I'm sure Boots is on this list. Because Boots, again, other than Crawford, is probably the only guy that I would fancy to do it. Other than, maybe Devin Haney. Like, Devin Haney's 32-0. It's not got Boots' record on here. But Boots is probably still too far away. Because Boots I think he's still in his... Actually, what is Boots' record, actually? I don't know. I'm going to look at it, but... Do you know what I mean? Devin Haney could potentially do it. I don't fancy him to do it, but... Stranger things have happened in the sport of boxing. Let's get Boots' record up. Because Boots could do it. Boots could definitely do it. Let's get this box rec up. He's 28. He's 34. Bro, Boots could do it, G. Let's stop playing. Boots is probably next up to reach 50-0. And I don't agree with everything Eddie Hearn's saying. But when he's talking about Boots Ennis, I do agree. I do. I'm sorry, I agree. He's talking about Boots is capable of unifying 154, going up to 160, unifying there. I think he's capable of doing it. I think he's very capable of doing it. So, we'll see. I think Jaron Ennis is exactly one of these guys, like a Terence Crawford, like a Floyd Mayweather, like even a Roy Jones, a guy who was a multi-weight world champion, went from middleweight to heavyweight. These are generational talents, in my opinion, right? Now, David Benavidez, I'm going to talk about. Again, as great as David Benavidez is, and again, he's one of my favourite fighters to watch. 100% one of my favourite fighters to watch. But for him to be able to reach 50-0, he has to be so good for so long, and I don't think he's got that in him. But yeah, I'd be super curious to know what you guys think. Who do you think would be the next boxer to reach 50-0? Do you think it'd be any guys that are named on the list or someone else? Let me know in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.